Hey Guru,
Hi, Chetan.
hi. Welcome back to another round of podcasts. And we've had a fairly successful series till now. We've had a number of esteemed guests come in, give their views. But you've been asking me several questions, and you wanted to sort of go in depth on some topics as well, correct? So
That's
over
right.
to you.
Yeah, thanks a lot. So, hello, hi, viewers. I'm hoping that you are enjoying our series. The Coding Council has been around for a few weeks now, and there have been a lot of viewership lately. I want to take an occasion, this particular occasion, I want to pick the brains of our esteemed lawyer who has
Now Guru is now pulling my leg on all these things, but yeah.
No. I want. So you've been around in the legal field for a long time. I want to take your opinion on some of the things that we are doing on AI, how it can change the world for people who are actually, for the industries, for the enterprises, and all those things.
Yeah. So, we were really thinking what should be the title for this podcast. And this podcast is titled The Rise of AI in Legal Decision Making, which actually sets the trend for today's discussion. Because increasingly, even in our day-to-day work at COCO or otherwise, and also some of the clients that we deal with, AI has taken a pivotal role in decision making. And we've seen this day in and day out. And even our routine work, as we do, often has a bearing on how we use AI. And now what's happened is it's become so rampant even in our workflows, internal workflows, and so on, that it's become part and parcel of how we do work. And it's certainly been helpful, correct, in a number of ways, and we will go through this during the podcast as well.
Right.
So, what do you Guru?
Okay, so let me start by asking you a question. Can you start by giving an overview of how the AI is currently being integrated into the industry, into the legal industry?
I mean, if you look at how AI is being integrated into the legal industry, correct, and if you talk of legal industry, there are essentially two main buckets. One is the law firms, and the other are enterprises. These are still, I would say, at an early stage of utilizing AI in day-to-day tasks and things like that. Let's look at law firms. There are once again many categories within these law firms. There are some forerunners which have integrated Gen AI technologies and have, in fact, there are some law firms that also market some of these technologies. They're in partnership with other companies as well. There are law firms that have developed their own data sets. Okay, they have relied on their own data, and it's gone through a process of sort of cleaning and also fine tuning. And you can avail of these data sets, and you can build out a few applications, things like these. That's another case. Other law firms have, and these are primarily limited to very large law firms, which have the resources to do something like these. And but if you look at some of the smaller law firms, and if you look at individual practices, correct, which are also a backbone, to communities across the globe. They are quite intrigued, and they want to know what kind of solutions are available to them. Correct. And from an individual practitioner's perspective, or from the perspective of a small business, legal business owner, the issue becomes: can I save costs? Can I cut down the time that it takes for me to go back to my clients? Correct. So these are some of the things that they are primarily looking at. In the larger scheme of things, right, it becomes a question of access to specialized data, which some of the larger law firms provide. So that's how it's turning out. In enterprises, it's a totally different ballgame, as you know. Every part of enterprise is being revolutionized, because of Gen AI, and also, going forward, when you have general AI coming on board as well, which is anticipated soon, and this is being recorded in July of 2024. So you can anticipate in the next 6 months to a year that there'll be another pivotal change coming, through all of these things as well. But if you look at an enterprise, whether it is to increase efficiency, to do more business, to better provide support to customers, to better provide legal support to both existing and external customers, to streamline document data, to introduce security measures such that compliance needs are met across markets. And these are all the things that are being changed radically. Now imagine if you are, now again there will be two cases here which I want to discuss. One is let's take a multinational enterprise which is operating in many countries. And typically, if you look at legal departments in such multinational enterprises, these are both local, plus you'll usually have a hub. So they operate on like a hub and spoke model, with individual lawyers in critical countries or individual legal teams and so on and so forth. But the challenges are becoming global. If you really look at it, whether it's a regulatory challenge or whether it's a competition law challenge or if it is, a tax challenge. Now, how do you ensure that people, let us say, you are operating in Gabon, correct, and you want to sort of have the same response, to a tax query as that may be given by headquarters, correct, such that there is both sanctity and there is also the same, nothing is being misconstrued or miscommunicated to a local authority. This is becoming a challenge, but with the advent of Gen AI, correct, you can streamline all these challenges very, very easily. So you can have at the touch of a button, you can also have predictive analytics to understand how things may actually pan out, whether it is on whether it's on regulatory issues or whether it's on litigation, things like these. So that's where, from a multinational enterprise, there are many, many use cases for all of these things, right? But let's take a small business on the other hand, correct? And for a small business, time is money, and you need access to legal services, as an example. And these tend to be expensive, correct? And for a small business, if you look at compliance requirements, say in India, even a small business, as an example, will end up spending at least, as a private limited company, at least 8 to 10 lakh rupees in compliance each year. Right. That's a lot of money for a small business, right? But to be able to even achieve that kind of compliance, there is a lot more money to be spent. So you're looking at upfront costs of, say, a private limited company or an LLP, in the range of, say, 15 to 20 lakhs a year just to keep it running, correct? And there are a lot of things that you can streamline there. You can standardize documents. You can use standardized contracts. You can collaborate well. You don't have to necessarily go through a lawyer to use standardized contracts. Where you can avail of digital signing very easily. And if you receive contracts from third parties, you don't have to ping somebody to get it. You can quickly review it and respond to it because you're a small business owner, correct? So what I'm saying is there's a lot of efficiency to be drawn, within the lakhs that is being spent today to run a small business across the globe. This is the same issue, correct? In India, it tends to be exacerbated because you don't necessarily always have access to professional services, and the professional services are not necessarily of quality nature, correct? And this is true of many functions.
And also, they're not immediately available. There's a time factor involved, etc.
And for a small business owner, who wants to get back to his customer, pretty much immediately, and time is money. They want to conclude all of these things as well. Also, for a small business owner, Gen AI tends to also give the power of a much larger company or the
resources available for.
Yeah, or the notion that
Yeah.
that they have much more experienced resources
Right.
than what is available, simply because of the nature of Gen AI. Correct.
Right.
So you can draft very sophisticated contracts,
Right.
at a fraction of the price, at a fraction of the time, or you can have very sophisticated risk reports at a fraction of the price.
Right.
And things like these, which, if you really think about it, is access to legal services as it's meant to be, correct? And how things are moving. So in both ends of the spectrum, especially when it comes to businesses, correct? Both on the enterprise side, and think of a multinational enterprise, which I began with. And if you look at a law firm, correct? Both a solopreneurship or a 1,000-person law firm. Now, those are, I would think, at the edge of their sizes, given how things are moving, especially in the AI front. But these are some of the typical, typical overview as to how it's being integrated. This is how I would think that this is an overview as to how things are being integrated both in the enterprise space as well as in the law firm space. Sorry, very long answer to your question.
No.
But I just wanted to, these are things that we've seen and continue to explore as time goes by.
So thanks a lot for the detailed answer. To summarize, so you have answered about how AI is changing the sector across the various market segments, and also with respect to the use cases, you said that there is contract review analysis, applications, there is legal research, predictive analytics, chatbots, all the things that you have talked about. Basically covers all these aspects. And you also talked about democratizing the legal using AI for both the smaller organization as well as the bigger organizations. Basically, using AI is actually going to help them to use a similar level of quality of legal services or applications in both the companies sectors.
Yeah.
Thank you. So, what are some of the immediate impact or effects that AI can bring in to the legal departments across the sector?
Yeah, and this is something which increasingly people are also discovering, saying what are the benefits that AI can bring to the legal sector, whether you're a law firm or whether you're a company or a business and doing all of these things, right? If you really think about it, there are immediately what brings to mind is accuracy. Correct. Now, legal, just as any other function, as an example, you have functions such as finance, procurement, you'll have legal, typically, these are all different cogs in a larger game, correct? That's how we look at it from if you're running an enterprise. But if you're running, one of the main things, whether you're a law firm or whether you're a consumer of legal services such as a company, is accuracy in legal services, correct? And that we know can, as practitioners, we know that can really, really vary. Correct? And the more years that you spend in the profession, correct, the more articulate and the more detailed an answer can get, correct? And the more nuanced things can get, correct? So there's always premium for more experienced analysis and things like that. What Gen AI has done is, really bridge the divide, correct? And yes, there is always a market for critical legal advice, legal research, and there are some, it may not be possible, to cover all of these nuances, say in Gen AI, unless you know what to ask Gen AI for. But one of the things that Gen AI has done is bring in a lot of accuracy, correct? So, and it also, depending on how you view it and how it is programmed, it can either be very balanced or it can take the view of someone basically review it from a certain perspective as well, correct? Just as you would do in real life, correct? Let's say you are entering into a lease agreement for premises, correct? You would want a lease agreement to be either balanced or slightly in your favor. The same thing is going to be happening to, depending if you're a lessor. If you are a lessee, then you want to make sure that, that no additional obligations are passed on you, correct? But if you go to a lawyer today, you will not get the same answers from two different professionals, correct? Depending on the complexity of the document. Now imagine this is a banking document or a project finance document, correct? It's incredible. These are very complex documents, or even IPO documents for that matter, correct? Nobody, I don't think anyone in the country except SEBI actually goes through those 700-page tomes, correct? It has so many disclosures, but how is it even relevant to someone, who's investing in the market? So there are many, many use cases like this. But what GenAI has done is make it very accurate, correct? At least from a review perspective, so that you as a consumer of legal services have access to a fair degree of accuracy, correct? In at least what it is doing. Also takes an unbiased opinion. Why I mention this is, especially in law firm circles, and the more you practice and the more clients you have, the more risk of conflicts arise, correct? So from that perspective, correct, and conflicts can arise in very different kind of circumstances as well. Or, so from that perspective, correct, you want something which is unbiased, which is unconflicted, and which you can rely on as a fair degree of accuracy as well, correct? So that's something that as a first layer you can immediately achieve through GenAI, correct? Now we can also go much deeper, okay? And we know this because we have products that do exactly this, that go into different nuances of the law, different sectors of the law, things like these as well. So in the hands of a practitioner, correct, it is like a surgical knife, correct? You can use to either cut it or seal it in either way that you do it, but it's a very fine instrument, correct? So that's how I would view something like this. And secondly, it also, especially in legal departments in law firms, helps, not just in law firms, but also in enterprises, right? So legal department, it helps to maintain institutional history. What happens in both cases, both in law firms as well as enterprises, is over a period of time, there's a lot of institutional history which is left with one or two people in the law firm. Right? It's impossible to replace. Even in law firms, for that matter, it will be like, go to this person to get an idea as to why this happened, where and when and how, and why this. Why the firm took a view that this is the right approach and something else. In an institutional scenario, it would be like, what did we do in this deal, say 5 years back? Now,
how do we tackle a certain problem?
How do we tackle a certain problem? How do we respond to legal notice that's come from a regulatory authority in a certain manner? So this GenAI helps maintain the institutional memory, which till now was lacking. Which till now has been relegated to senior partners in law firms and long tenured folks in companies. So what happens that it's bridged that gap, correct? So how now the question is how has it bridged the gap? All the data that comes in, whether it's correspondence or whether it is documents or contracts and things like this, is available today, to be converted into, a data set or a mini legal model or whatever the case is. So over a period of time, it maintains institutional history as to what happened when, right? To give you an example, in many banks, especially in Mumbai, correct? Every department would have somebody who had the knowledge of foreign exchange management, right? From FERA and FEMA. These would typically be officers would have spent at least 30 years in foreign exchange and knew all of the nuances,
Right.
that RBI would have taken. Today we've got a bot to do all of these things.
Right. And that can crunch the 2,000-page book that you have shown me the other day into one single bot, which you can simply ask questions.
So just for the benefit, I showed Guru saying, the data set that we have is essentially the equivalent of Snow White publication, which is a 2,000-page tome on foreign exchange, as an example.
Yeah.
Yes, if you really require you go through, you'll need a publication to go through it. But one, it is not always going to be correct. And if you look at 2,000 pages, and by the time you commit those 2,000 pages to memory and then analyze what the implications are, that's going to take a long time. For a typical practitioner, it will take at least 10 years for them to even understand what the nuances are, for all of these things. So that's the third thing. Cutting short the time. That is basically cutting short the
efficiency of.
Yeah, no, it's not just about that. I need an answer and I need it now. So from a current generation's perspective as well, and the way that Gen Z also uses AI, they have grown into a generation where it has all of these things. So you need access immediately. So when you can order food delivered in 5 minutes, or you can watch something which on your mobile phone or your TV, which is immediate.
Too much effort.
So why shouldn't this be the delivery of services? Correct. When you can get something at 3 a.m. in the morning, then why shouldn't this be? So if you really look at it, it is immediate.
Right.
So that is immediacy is another feature for all of these things. Now, one of the other things is efficiency, which you talked about. Correct. So what would take a lot of tomes, reams of paper, a lot of people looking into it, external counsel coming in doing this is now all cut short. Correct. So from an efficiency perspective, if you are in a legal team, correct, you can do the same level of work, correct, and have the backing of a number of people. Essentially, you have a multi-specialty team at your beck and call. Right? It's the same thing on the law firm front as well. Correct. And the law firms spend a lot of time training people. It takes many years to train good lawyers, and then for them to come out and do all of these things. That part of efficiency is really taken care of as well. And also, as models improve, as specialist data sets are created, correct, then the other advantage is also on knowledge retention. Correct? And today we have pipelines that continuously update data sets, right? So every time a judgment comes out, as an example, correct, you can say with certainty, how is it, what the results were. How is it going to be? You tie that into predictive analytics, you will know how other trends of cases going on are. So all these things exist today as well, correct? But you did not have a conversational interface with all of these things, which has really brought it to the core. And also, there are other things as well, multilingual. We have the ability today to upload a handwritten or a multilingual text and have it reviewed pretty much in real time. Correct. So it is
also in a country like India, where there are 25 plus, 30 plus official languages.
Correct.
This is something that is going to become handy.
So I can go on all of these things, but I'll pause here. But these are some of the things that you can really sort of look. These are some of the improvements that Gen AI can bring into all of these things as well.
Okay, great. So we know that legal sector is a document-heavy sector. So we deal with contracts, documents, hundreds of them, thousands of them on a regular basis. So how does AI streamline tasks such as documentation, storing, legal research, etc.? Can you provide us some examples of some of these technologies at work?
Yeah. See, one of the things which we live in a very complex world, correct? One of the things is standardization of documents. Whether even today, if you take a case of a country like India,
Yeah.
and you go to a law and you go to the courts as an example, a lot of the documentation is not standardized.
Right.
You still have to sit and handwrite it. Correct. Some portions of it is automated, like cost lists and things like that. But that's older. It's like you're taking 200-year-old rules and trying to sort of like streamline it, or trying to create an application based on it. It is no longer, and therefore you will end up with all sorts of complications. People may not know what form to use when. So one of the things, if you practice in the US as an example, you'll certainly find is that a lot of the forms are standardized. Correct? And this is across states as well. This helps not just in very efficient justice delivery, but also if you really look at it, say for companies as well, or law firms as well, you have standardized documentation.
Makes it easier to manage.
Yeah, it makes it easier to manage. Correct. You have, and you can easily make out which of these are your documents.
Right.
And from a client's perspective, which of these clauses in documents can be faked or not. Correct. So standardization, document automation is very core to solving a lot of things.
Right.
It's very rare that you would actually go and create a document from scratch. The only time that happens is there's a major regulatory change. Okay. And there are no precedents that are created. But in 99% of the cases, standardization is the way to go. So whether it is forms, whether it's precedents, whether it's contracts, so I think you need to have document automation as one of the ways in which you can streamline tasks as well. The second is on legal research. Right? Legal research, as I did as a law student or as a practicing attorney, was go through huge books, correct? Spend your time in books, and it will give you a very nuanced view as well. But there's a limit. I used to work. I did an internship with a tax counsel who meticulously maintained handwritten records of every tax ruling that came out. Now that's basically like the index of documents which you can automate today in like a couple of seconds, right?
Yeah.
But this was a gentleman who did it, and he took a lot of pride in doing all of these things as well. From my perspective, it took a lot of time, right? And the index is not searchable, right? So these were things which occurred to us, 30 years back. But now, as an example, legal research will change. Legal research today, is also access to various databases and various articles and things like that. If you, when I used to study in my alma mater, National Law School, we would have access to all these online journals, and also, if you didn't have access to certain journals, by the way, India still may not have a network library system. So you would go to IIM Bangalore or IISc to access certain journals which they would sort of like have access to. If you go to the US or the UK for that matter, you'll have most of the library systems are networked. So that means that even if you don't have access to a particular publication, you can use network. Basically, it's a form of the internet, right, that you can access in real time. Now, this is from a legal research perspective, say from legal scholars or younger lawyers to do this. But in a law firm, right, legal research tends to be very, very specialized. It is a question of knowledge, having prior knowledge, and looking at the outcomes of what you require and supporting those outcomes, through research. Correct. So both these today are able to be. You can use, for instance, like our QBots to have general access to legal research, but you can also use very specialized data, which is the IP of the firm or the company concerned, and basically derive an analysis based on precedents or using very custom data sets is what I'm trying to say. Saying using custom data sets to answer very specific questions that a firm may be specialized in. So these are some of the things that you can use sort of do legal research, also arrive at outcome-based research, and also tie in the two. Because analysis, one of the things that today's LLMs, depending on the LLM, is also, having the ability to sort of, arbitrate on what is the highest, from a statistics perspective, what is the highest level of where this is occurring. So this automatically comes in from a statistics point of view, saying that your text output is linked to whatever is strongest in the data sets that you're doing. What happens if you use it in a custom data set is you get very accurate answers, correct? So that on fine-tuned models, essentially, right? So that is something which did not exist before. So, and you use a bot as a thinking man's tool. It becomes your favorite assistant, which can answer pretty much or meet your level of intellectual, capability or more to be able to sort of like give you a very nuanced answer back. So once again, I go back to the surgeon's knife, saying you can use it to, it can be as sharp as you want it to be. Correct. And we know this, right? And so it really depends on the ability of firms or companies to be able to deploy all of these things, because this is what is required to make it to the next level. Correct. And that's how things are changing as well.